Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug YouTube channel. I'm Aeron and we're here to discuss WWE NXT from last night. Absolute banger of a show. If I do say so myself, I'm going to tell you what I liked. I'm going to tell you what I didn't like, which ultimately wasn't that much. So that begs the question, why am I here? I've got nothing else to do, so hopefully I'm going to entertain you poor motherfuckers. There's a reason why I've jumped off the bandwagon a little bit of AEW Dynamite. It's not because I dislike them that much and hate them. A lot of people are messaging me saying, oh, you fucking hate AEW. Why do you hate AEW so much? You're such a WWE mark. No, I'm not a mark for anybody's company. I'm a mark for good wrestling. And I like what I like. That's the great thing about wrestling. It's subjective, and ultimately, I don't want to watch a lot of the carny bullshit AEW Dynamite is willing to provide me because I get it better, in my opinion, on Impact Wrestling. However, WWE NXT takes their women's wrestling seriously. What does Hikaru Shida do for the majority of her time on AEW Dynamite? She's not defending the title. She's at ringside with a mask on going, oh, I love watching Cody Rhodes for half an hour. I love being a cheerleader. No. Women don't need to be cheerleaders in this era. Women are on a par with the men. And if you want a good example of that, how about we look at the beginning of WWE NXT, which started off with Candice LeRae versus Ember Moon in an absolute barn burner. These women were kicking 7 shades of shit out of each other. These are world-class women's wrestlers, and they are afforded time after time after time on the microphone in front of the camera, storylines, progressive storylines. They are allowed the opportunity to express themselves. Okay? We give WWE a lot of grief. We have to give them credit, particularly when it comes to WWE NXT. They have a much better women's division. And that isn't just because they have a lot of the talent. People, AEW fans, they're full of excuses. They hoard all the talent. They steal everybody. They've got more money. Sorry, it's a level playing field. There's plenty of money over at AEW. The reality is that they don't know how to spot women's talent nearly as well as WWE does. And with War Games just around the corner, what better time than to ramp up your women's division even more? And we found out who the 4th member of Candice LeRae's team is going to be. Toni Storm. She comes down to help Ember Moon. Or does she? A little bit of a swerve, a little bit of a heel turn. Toni Storm is now with Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. That's the most formidable looking women's team you could ever ask for, really, particularly with Shayna Baszler now on the main roster. We still don't know really who's going to be on Shotzi Blackheart's team. We assume Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley came down later on in the show. A lot of people thought she was going to make the announcement that she was off to the main roster. She had one of the best women's matches I've seen on WWE NXT Weekly in recent memory against Io Shirai last week. They kicked a hell of a lot of shit out of each other. This was a physical, violent match. For those of you out there who don't believe that the women can wrestle on a level with the men, you need to go back to last week and watch Io Shirai versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship. The tease of Rhea Ripley moving to the main roster, not actually a thing at all. Sorry, Dirt Sheets, got that one wrong, at least for now. And also, it's not really a prediction, is it? Called it, of course. She's going to be on the main roster eventually. That's the whole idea of NXT. I know it's supposed to be a brand of its own right now, and it kind of is, and it's doing a fantastic job. But at the end of the day, the end game is still for a lot of these talents to make their way to Raw or SmackDown. And you're going to take that call up because it means more money, more production, more commercialism, more exposure. In the meantime, Rhea Ripley's getting the shit kicked out of her by Team Candice LeRae, who got the jump on her after showing that they completely devastated Io Shirai. I'm assuming Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai are going to be a part of Shotzi Blackheart's team. By the way, the use of Black Sabbath War Pigs as well. Phenomenal stuff. I love that. I love the fact that this brand is just that little bit heavy metal. I think that's why I enjoy it. I think that's why I like watching this. By the way, the set as well, I've said this several times before. Raw Underground would have had far more success if it had actually filmed its segments in this underground-looking area. You got a cage around the ring. You've got the edgier, more darker video wall. You've got some fans in there. They're a little bit more rabid. They're banging on the glass, the plexiglass. What's not to like? It's a fantastic little arena. I think it's one of the best setups, if not the best setup right now for fans involved with wrestling. What's not to like? It's easily, for my money, the best setup going right now for wrestling. The Impact Arena is, of course, empty. AEW Dynamite is in this big open-air stadium, but they've only got a few hundred fans. This is the right way to do things. Closed, set environment. It just feels edgy. It feels a little bit like Lucha Underground, dare I say. And that was something that I love too. I like something that's different, and this is different, and I appreciate it. I love the setup. Go small. This isn't a case of less is more. This is a case of do more with less. Irregardless of me running off on a tangent, the Women's War Games match at NXT TakeOver is going to be a barn burner. We're just 2 weeks away. I'm excited about that. On the flip side of things, the men's. I'm sorry. There's no comparison. AEW Dynamite has some great main events with some great talents. WWE NXT's main event this week was Pete Dunne versus Kyle O'Reilly in a ladder match. Sorry, AEW, you lose. It's not really a competition. That's just unfair. Pete Dunne versus Kyle O'Reilly is a monster matchup. These are two bona fide superstars. These are world-class wrestlers, and they have everything at their disposal to be at the top of their game. We saw what Kyle O'Reilly did to Finn Balor, who for some reason has some obsession with cats right now. I have no idea what that's all about. Keeps making cat references. No idea. Kitty litter, cats back to play, mice play when the cat isn't around. You're right, Finn. You having a bad time? Either way, this ladder match was fucking incredible. Car crash spectacular, high quality wrestling, physicality, Pete Dunne adapting his submission style to work around a ladder as well, which was fantastic. The manipulation of the joints using the ladder, Kyle O'Reilly taking some heinous bumps, Pete Dunne as well, to be fair, you know, both crashing through ladders, great spots. It's got to a point now where you have to do something quite special for me to find a ladder match entertaining. This is one of those gimmick matches that has just been done to death. Nonetheless, these are the two guys I would trust to deliver on that premise, and they did. This was amazing. Back-to-back weeks, they've had Match of the Year contenders as their main event. I'm sorry, but how anyone can compare this to anything else is beyond me. They're putting on the best matches. Conspicuous by his absence, of course, was Pat McAfee. And of course, it was him. By the way, this was one thing that I didn't like. You kind of made the Undisputed Era look a bit stupid. They come out early in the night. They're spitting fire. They're ready to go. Kyle O'Reilly nominates himself. He wants a piece of Pete Dunne. He remembers what Pete did, turning on him. He wants to extract his revenge. So they have this big match. Everybody's coming into this hopped up on testosterone, feeling like the biggest team. Who's going to get the advantage for War Games? And then what happens is Pat McAfee clearly runs down with his mask again. We all know it's him. He's already come down as that person before. He's already come down dressed like that before. Interferes in the match, pushes Kyle O'Reilly off the ladder, and of course Pete Dunne wins. Then Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, even Adam Cole, they come to ringside afterwards to help their fallen brethren, Kyle O'Reilly, and you can hear them shouting, going, "How could you let some random person run to the ring?" I'm pretty sure we know who it is, guys, because there's only two guys standing up there on the other gantry. That, of course, being the legend himself, Danny Burch, aka Martin Stone, the governor, representing UK. Loving that, by the way. Lovely to see him in a prominent position. And, of course, Oney Lorcan as well. And I have waxed lyrical a number of times about how these guys deserve more. The 1-2 connection, as I like to call them, as a tag team, and of course the NXT Tag Team Champions with Pat McAfee in their corner. The only way is up for these boys, and that's something that I definitely like about NXT. It was a small nitpick. I just felt that they made them look a little bit silly at the end. It was pretty obvious that Pat McAfee was going to get involved. If anything, put him up there with them and then have him run down halfway through. Or have somebody else as a hired gun. Pat McAfee spent a lot of time talking about how he was able to offer money to certain people, to take out certain people. That being said, though, phenomenal main event. Great way to close the show. In the mid-card, though, let's not sleep on what's going on. Cameron Grimes and Dexter Loomis continue their shenanigans. I really like this because it's got a touch of the horror, a touch of the stupidity, a touch of the humor, showing that NXT has all kinds of different things going on. There's plenty of humor to go around. Dexter Loomis and Cameron Grimes seem to have attached themselves to a very funny and yet very brooding rivalry in certain places, and it can be quite morbid at times. I really like Dexter Loomis's character. I didn't think I would at first. I remember him as Samuel Shaw in TNA. Who can forget Samuel Shaw's bedroom?
What are you doing in my bedroom?
You want to explain this?
I said, what are you doing in my bedroom?
Anyway, Dexter Loomis. is on fire on this brand. And I like the fact they've been able to incorporate his artistry. I love the fact that they have taken Samuel Shaw. It's essentially the same person, but they kind of repackaged him. Slightly different look, loving the tash, makes him look murderous. Essentially, his gimmick is that he's kind of a serial killer. I'm kind of okay with it. There's something about Dexter Loomis that captivates me that Samuel Shaw just didn't. Samuel Shaw felt a bit too weird. Very Impact Wrestling, if I do say so myself. The insinuation of a leather strap match, using the animations, by the way. Dexter Loomis is such an accomplished artist. I myself do a lot of artistry work, a lot of design work, and I really actually admire a lot of his work from an artist standpoint. Never mind the fact that he's a world-class wrestler as well. He can really go in the ring, and I think people need to appreciate that as much as they do the wacky side of what he is doing with this current character development. Cameron Grimes, of course, once again forced into a corner by William Regal, who pretty much admits that he doesn't like him backstage and makes the match for NXT TakeOver. Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes in a leather strap match. There will be no escape for either gentleman. Somehow, I feel like Dexter Loomis will probably enjoy that a little bit more. Timothy Thatcher versus Kushida was in the mid-card. Mwah. Technical masterpiece. Probably the two best technical wrestlers that NXT has. Kushida has been on a real tear, and although a lot of us don't like Velveteen Dream, and of course the allegations involved in that, one thing I will say is the use of him to help put over Kushida and Tommaso Ciampa in this rageful-like performance has worked and paid dividends. Kushida looks fantastic as the enraging Japanese technical wrestler. We all know that he's a good guy. We all know that he can be a very smooth mat technician, but we never really knew whether he had that rage inside of him to really help project him to a next level. All of a sudden, he's gone from being plucky Japanese import who wrestles well to being a legitimate, bona fide star, somebody who feels like he could really make an impact on the roster. Tommaso Ciampa factoring in little rivalry with Timothy Thatcher. I like the gimmick. I like the fact that Tommaso Ciampa has kind of taken it upon himself to purge the laziness and the lackadaisical attitude of what's going on in NXT. I like this turn from Tommaso Ciampa, and he's also turning in some fantastic promos. Everything Tommaso Ciampa does feels legitimate. The little things, like when he stands up and throws the chair behind him, all of a sudden Timothy Thatcher is distracted by this, and that of course gives Kushida the opportunity to tap out Timothy Thatcher. If there is one thing I don't like, and there aren't many things that I don't like about NXT right now, it is the use of Timothy Thatcher. It does feel like he could be a little bit more than what he's being presented as. He's being presented as the old school technician. That's fine, but he's legitimately a beast. He's one of the best technical wrestlers, and he's also super aggressive, and he's got a great look too. He looks like a grizzled, angry bastard. He works on this product, and he could be something more. Timothy Thatcher strikes me as somebody who may end up actually applying himself even better on the main roster. If there's one critique I do have of Timothy Thatcher, he may not be the strongest when it comes to mic work, but ultimately that's not what Timothy Thatcher is about. Timothy Thatcher is an old school wrestler. He's like a vaulter. He doesn't need to be on the microphone. He just needs to be in there breaking falls and snapping limbs. I have to say, it was a little bit of a surprise that he tapped out to Kushida. That being said, I have no problem with him wrestling Tommaso Ciampa, and it's always good to see Tommaso Ciampa on this product. Do you know what I love seeing on this product? British wrestlers. I do get a little bit of national pride. I'm not much of a patriot, I have to be honest. I don't really give a shit about England when it comes to football. I'll watch them, but I'm not really that passionate about them. I'm a club man. I support talent over nationality. But when it comes to NXT, it's hard not to appreciate and enjoy seeing guys that I saw on a local independent level rise to the cream of the crop, rise to the top of where they belong. And one of the finest examples of that is the returning Grizzled Young Veterans. I absolutely love these two. James Drake, Zach Gibson, they are world class as far as tag team wrestling goes. And as far as promos go, I truly believe that Zach Gibson is one of the best heel promos in the world. And you're going to realize that as things go on. Now that they've returned to NXT, it seems that there's been a bit of a relaxation when it comes to travel arrangements due to COVID-19. We've seen Pac return, of course, from the UK to AEW Dynamite. We've seen these boys return to NXT. Instead of going to NXT UK, which would have been such an easy option for them to do, they've kept them on NXT. And I'm really happy about that because this is a tag team division that has kind of been raided a little bit too hard. No pun intended. The tag team division is kind of in flux right now. There are some contenders, but it doesn't feel like anybody's really available right now. So having Grizzled Young Veterans come in and attack those two jobbers, who frankly I don't care about, and that's something I don't really give a toss about, and probably I'll put that in the don't like column. Grizzled Young Veterans coming in adds a much needed injection of charisma and freshness to your tag team division. I haven't been seen in some months, and them arriving on the scene is very good news. All of a sudden, you've got Grizzled Young Vets, you've got Undisputed Era, you've got Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, you've got Breezango waiting in the wings. All of a sudden, your tag team division feels a little bit more legitimate again, just with the injection of two men. And of course, with the promo skills that they have available at their disposal, I'm very excited. James Drake doesn't need to talk because he's gorgeous, frankly. And also, he's a world-class wrestler as well as Zach Gibson. And by the way, they are by far and away the best dressed lads in all of the Black and Gold brand. Finally, I should really give a shout out to Kevin Owens, who was on commentary. Kevin Owens was fantastic throughout the show, but where he really shined was when he did the KO show with the North American champion Leon Ruff. This is where I don't know whether I like it or I dislike it. Leon Ruff is clearly a nice guy. It's a lovely story that he won the championship. However, he's being put across as a super dorky, dim-witted idiot to a certain extent, you know, kind of like the plucky but silly superhero that nobody takes seriously. And I get it, that's the whole idea. It's just not really my cup of tea. That being said, everything that's going in around it seems to be hilarious. Kevin Owens playing on the tropes of the wrestling interview. This whole segment was a homage to the wrestling interview. You think back to Piper's Pit, the barbershop set, you know, all of these different things. The morgue as well with Paul Bearer. All of these different interview segments that have come and gone through times. Jericho's highlight reel, Christian's peep show. All of these different things have combined into this great moment. This truly was a tribute to all of those. I love the fact that he's like, huh, you know how this works, right? You say somebody's name and then 3 seconds later their music turns on. He goes, in 3, 2, 1. Oh, my timing was a little off there. I just love little things like that. It's kind of a nod to the fourth wall without kicking the living shit out of it. I get it. You don't want to insult your fans' intelligence. They kind of know what the deal is. Everyone's in on it now. The internet has kind of ruined everything. But that being said, you still want to enjoy it for what it is and feel like a mark. Kevin Owens is so good at doing that. He's so good at letting you have a little peek behind the curtain, but making sure that you don't see all the moving parts and all the working parts. And this interview was great fun, and he helped make Leon Ruff look quite legitimate, at least as a very, very big underdog babyface. And of course, Johnny Gargano comes down in a rage, which is really funny. He offers a chair. Kevin Owens offers a chair to Johnny Gargano. This was one of the highlights of the show for me, was Johnny Gargano's sheer rage at being offered a chair. I don't want a stupid chair. Brilliant. Loved it. I thought it was really funny. And then, of course, Damian Priest comes down to interject in this argument of sorts. Kevin Owens offers him a chair. He declines, frankly, quite politely, because he's quite the gentleman. And Kevin Owens just kind of sulks off like, don't want to bother getting these stupid chairs anyway. It's just very funny. I like it. He's kind of petulant. Kevin Owens is so good at doing everything. Kevin Owens is legitimately one of the biggest stars in his company. And I don't think anybody truly realizes just how big a star he is, because he's quite happy to just go around and do everything. He can put people over. He can be the star. He can be the champion. He can come from underneath. Phrasing, boom. Ultimately, Kevin Owens can do anything. And he helped make this segment. And I love the fact that he even said, if this was back in the day, Teddy Long would come out and make some triple threat match. I wish we had an authority figure like that. And then, of course, William Regal comes down, sets up the triple threat for the North American Championship. Leon Ruff will defend his title against Damian Priest and Johnny Gargano at TakeOver. I actually expect that match to be really good. Leon Ruff's character may not be for me, and I frankly think he's a little bit of a knockoff of Norman Smiley in a lot of ways. That being said, he is an excellent wrestler, and this will be a high quality match. Takeover looks good. WWE NXT is worth staying up for. 2 hours of my life that I do not need to bemoan about getting back because it was well worth the time invested in this product. I'll be making sure that I cover this every week. Let us know what you think of WWE NXT, and of course, I will be covering Dynamite, so I want to know what you think about both shows. What are the shows doing right that makes you want to watch? What are the shows doing wrong that makes you not want to watch? What does NXT do well? What does AEW Dynamite do well? Why do you choose one over the other? It'd be great to have some interaction. It'd be great to give you guys a shout out on the podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you'd like to support the WrestlePlug, it's wrestleplug.bigcartel.com or prowrestlingtees.com/WrestlePlug. You can buy yourself a lovely t-shirt, and all that money goes back into helping improve this podcast, improve the graphics. But let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, like, subscribe, comment, and of course, hit that bell icon so you can get notifications on all of our videos. There's going to be a lot more content coming, and it'd be great to have you along for the ride. I've been Aaron X, and we'll catch you very soon for more content from the WrestlePlug.